Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about what we're seeing in the news right now. It's really not just in the news, it's all over social media, print media. The president has spoken on it, and that is the possibility, or some would say guarantee, of coming food shortages. Now, if you've been around at all on my channel, then you know I am not a fearmonger. I don't post things for clickbait, and I am not at all interested in scaring you or causing you to be more anxious than you probably are already. My goal in today's video, which is actually going to be broken into two parts, is to provide you with some perspective, some ways that you can simplify things in your life right now to save money and resources, and how you can prepare over the next 30 to 60 days if what they're predicting comes true. If it doesn't, then you're not going to be out thousands of dollars and years worth of work, but you will be prepared and it'll give you peace of mind. One thing I would encourage you to focus on right now is not doom and gloom, what some people are predicting as far as extremes. The bottom line is we don't know. We don't know what next week, next month, or 6 months from now is going to look like. It could be worse than people are predicting, or nothing may happen at all, which is very unlikely at this point. However, if you take some of these suggestions to heart and you do what you can to prepare better right now and over the next 4 to 6 weeks, then the worst case scenario is you have extra food in your home, in your pantry, in your freezers that may take you years to work through because you have plenty. But what if we really do face food shortages as a nation for an extended period of time? Then you can rest at ease knowing you have basic staples in your house to provide delicious and nutritious meals for your family for the next 6 to 12 months. Believe me, it's not as complicated as you might think. And I'm not going to tell you to go out and spend thousands of dollars or get into debt. I'm going to give you practical tips and specific items to purchase. And then in the part 2 video, I'm going to give you all the ways that you can use those. All right, grab your pencil and paper and write down these items. Many of them are going to be things that you've heard before, but I'm going to give you all the recipes and meal ideas that I could possibly think of to use these basic staples. It's not going to be boring. It's not going to be beans and rice every day. The first thing is flour. Simple, all-purpose flour. Right now at our Sam's Club, we can get a 25-pound bag of flour for just over $8. 25 pounds for just over $8. Let's just round up to $9 for a 25-pound bag. That means you could buy 300 pounds of all-purpose flour for just over $100. That would last you a long time. For some families, that would easily last you a year. Now, I have 8 children and my mother-in-law lives with us as well. 300 pounds would not last nearly as long for us. But here are some things that you would be doing with that flour. You could make bread, tortillas, biscuits, pasta, pizza dough, pie crust. That's a lot of options and a lot of meals. So we're not just talking about making bread. In addition to flour, you're going to need yeast, unless you're doing sourdough, which a lot of people just don't want to mess with. But you're going to need yeast, which is very cheap at places like Sam's and Costco. You can get 2 of the vacuum sealed bricks, which would last you quite a long time, for just over $5. Now, some of these things may have limits now, but right now, this is serious. We're talking about being prepared. So you may need to go back to your Sam's or Costco every couple of days to buy another 25-pound bag or to buy another package of yeast. Another thing that you need is a fat source. So I would say, obviously, the most stable fat source is going to be something like your unhealthy oils, like vegetable oil, canola oil, Crisco. You could also purchase lard that could be melted, but lard isn't necessarily the best thing. You don't necessarily want the solid fats for bread making. I personally prefer olive oil or melted butter. Of course, butter is going to be a little harder to store unless you have a lot of room in your freezer. We personally keep about 50 pounds of butter in the freezer at all times. That is something during COVID and shortages back then that I did not play around with. Life is so much better with butter. If you are eating very basic meals, having butter, salt, and different herbs and spices can go a long way. So I almost forgot, with regards to flour, you can also make pancakes and waffles. So that just adds to your many, many meal options when it comes to using flour, salt, yeast, or maybe baking soda or baking powder. Those are important leavening agents to have on hand. Those are things that you can buy in bulk for very inexpensive at places like Sam's and Costco. I would highly recommend you stock up on those items. Another thing is oats. Oats can be used for many things. It can be ground into flour, but you can also, so obviously you could use it to make oatmeal for breakfast. You can use it for cookies, granola bars, making granola. Oats are extremely cheap. They can be doctored up with coconut oil, butter, nuts, dried fruit, fresh fruit, cinnamon, brown sugar, regular sugar, honey, maple syrup. I kind of look at oatmeal like the pizza version of a breakfast item. You can doctor it up just about any way you want. I've even seen recipes for savory oatmeal online where people fry an egg and top their oatmeal with egg and salt and pepper, maybe a little bacon. Now, when we're talking about stocking up on inexpensive staples, rice and beans will always be on the list. Those things store well long term. They're very inexpensive, and they can be used in a multitude of ways. I would 100% recommend you stock up on rice, not brown rice. Brown rice can go rancid faster because of the oil content, but white rice, jasmine rice, basmati rice, and a variety of beans, split peas. Fill your pantry, fill some Rubbermaid totes with those items. One thing I don't want to forget to mention, if you are going to be using these dried goods like flour, rice, and beans in the next 12 to 18 months, it is not necessary to store them in Mylar bags or super duper airtight like Gamma Seal buckets. However, I do highly recommend placing your big bags of flour and rice in the freezer for 2 to 3 days when you first bring it home. Then you can pull it out of the freezer, let it come back up to room temperature, and you can store it in something like a Rubbermaid bin. You definitely want it in something, in a container that's hard so that rodents can't get into it if you have that problem. A couple of days in the freezer kills off any potential larvae or bugs that may be hibernating or hiding in your flour or rice, and ensures that it's going to be clean and ready to eat whenever you open it and need it. A few other items that I would not be without in my pantry are tomato paste. Tomato paste is so inexpensive. You can buy cases of it at Aldi. Of course, again, if there are limits right now, then it would be worth going back on a daily basis until you have what you're comfortable with. But tomato paste can be used to make just about any tomato product you would want. Marinara sauce, pizza sauce, spaghetti sauce, the base for your chili, enchilada sauce, tomato juice. You could make tomato soup. And the bonus is tomato paste cans are tiny, so you can store a lot for inexpensive and without using a ton of your pantry space. I also recommend storing lemon juice in vinegar. Those can be used in a variety of ways. They can be used when canning and preserving food from the garden if you grow your own food. They're both shelf stable for quite a long time. Of course, when you open lemon juice, you need to put it in the refrigerator. But you can buy 2 big liters of lemon juice at Sam's for just over $5, and they're good on your shelf unopened for like 2 years. I could very easily make ranch dressing or ranch dip using just mayonnaise and lemon juice, both of which unopened are good on my pantry shelf for years. I almost forgot sugar. Sugar is vitally important unless you're diabetic. Sugar can be used to make so many things. You can make powdered sugar, you can make brown sugar. It can be used to sweeten coffee or tea, even if you don't have any dairy products to add. If you have some very basic staple pantry items, you can make cookies, brownies. Those are things that would be incredibly boosting to the morale in a situation where you're facing shortages and your diet is extremely simple. To have a small treat once in a while, or even just to be able to sweeten your tea or sweeten your oatmeal, goes a long way. You could also use sugar to make a simple syrup to use over pancakes or waffles if you have what you need to make those, but you don't necessarily have maple syrup or pancake syrup. I am not familiar with grocery prices all over the US, but here in our area, you can still easily get sugar for about 50 cents a pound. The last two things I want to throw in are not necessarily pantry related, and that is seeds and compost. It doesn't matter where you live, what kind of soil you have, you can grow a lot of basics on a balcony, a front porch, a back deck, in containers, in buckets, in Rubbermaid bins. I've even seen people split the top of a soil bag open and plant seeds directly into the bag of soil. However, you can't grow any food without seeds, and you can't grow any seeds without decent soil. So I would say if you have the opportunity to buy containers to plant in, compost, and seeds right now, it's time to do it. Another thing that is vitally important in stressful times that I feel like is not talked about enough, and that is the value of community. I know some of you may live in a large city, you may live in an apartment, you may not know your neighbors, but you do have a circle of friends somewhere. And so even if you aren't living right next door to them or in the same neighborhood or even in the same apartment building, there are ways to pool your resources, work together, and support one another in times of stress, crisis, hardship. I want to close with this. What I'm trying to share with you is to prepare you for a worst case scenario. If we are really looking down the barrel of extreme food shortages like we've never seen in our lifetime, then having basics to feed your family are going to be absolutely vital. We're not talking about vast variety right now. We're talking about building a solid foundation in your pantry, in your home, for your family. In part 2 of this video, I will get into ways to provide some variety, some extra nutrition, and to make sure you have other non-food related staples in your home as well. If you haven't already done this, I would make a list of your family's favorite simple meals. We all have them, whether it's Taco Tuesday, spaghetti, chili, and start to think of ways that you can make those with shelf-stable foods. Maybe you have some food storage put back. Take inventory of what you have now and start to think through how much of it you go through on a monthly basis to see how much more you can build up your food storage between now and, let's say, the end of May. Some of the predictions that I've heard in a worst case scenario is that grocery stores will be nearly bare by the end of June. So let's keep that timeline in mind and get to work. I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.